We had about 1,000 forks into his front yard.
Crazy.
When we looked into the front glass door to see him rubbing his eyes in his boxers. We booked it, and all we hear is, "Yo, Paul, mount up." What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Youth Group Chronicles. Joining me for episode 2.
This is crazy.
I got my co-host, Isaiah Smallwood, here with me
What's
again.
up, y'all?
So I grew up on a youth camp, you know.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we
this
do.
This is classic.
So many stories from that, too.
Yes. Zach Bolin, he wrote, "I was at high school camp," so he brought his youth kids to camp last week, and in order to raise money for the mission, we decided to do an auction. We told the kids to bring all their money one night, and we would auction off items where they could bid on them, and the money would go towards the mission. So we sold pizzas, golden tickets. So like an example is you can cut in line for the rest of camp, which is pretty cool. Now, it was all good, and we raised a record over $4,000.
Wow.
Which that's a lot for camp kids.
That's actually phenomenal.
Yeah. So after raising $4,000 and being completely drained of money, or so he thought, I offered one more item. Since there were kids who didn't win anything because they only had a few dollars and you had to bid on the stuff, I told the group that when they leave, just give whatever money they had left. And for every $5 donated by the group, I would eat a worm, which that's pretty brave.
God, why would he say that?
Yeah.
Why would he do that?
Yep. I don't know.
These are kids.
He said,
excited.
I was prepared for about 10 worms, so $50. All right, pretty fair. However, these kids, without hesitation, dropped another $925 in my hands, which comes to 185 worms.
He didn't do it.
And it's with much pride and shame
No, he didn't.
that I say I ate all 185 worms.
Where did you find 185 worms?
So he sent a picture, and it's him in like a live bait shop going like thumbs up in front of a live bait cooler.
Kudos to you, bro. And great job, kids.
Yeah.
But
Almost $5,000. Yeah.
85.
185 worms. That's absolutely sick. Steven Mendez, this one's short, but he said, I got my job as a youth pastor by having to physically bounce a drunk guy at a pizzeria during youth night before a hockey game in front of all the kids and my senior pastor. And I guess the senior pastor was like, bet, like, this is the new youth pastor.
That's how we feel.
That's he
great.
said, I got my job as a youth pastor because of this. This is from Alan Johnston. We had a girl brought back to our lock-in in my first year in youth ministry by a cop who was trying to intimidate and scare the crap out of her. She left legitimately, or so we thought. We told them up front they could leave, but if they did, they couldn't come back, which makes sense. She and who she left with got pulled over by a small town cop, and he wanted to make an example of her. So he brought her back to us because that's where she said she had been, was at the church. And he then told her right before this, he's like, I can either take you downtown or I can leave you in their custody. It's all very weird. And I was 23, dumb, and brand new to youth ministry.
Oh, Lord.
This is also from Alan. I guess he has kids skipping youth group a lot. Sorry, Alan.
I had to pray for that.
Yeah. I had a girl who skipped youth group when her mom dropped her off. The kid was then gone the entire time and then came back as we finished, so her mom would think she had been there the whole time.
Jeez.
We told her mom about it, and then only to find out later from the mother that this girl had gone down the street with a couple of neighborhood kids and smoked pot.
Lord. The devil's lettuce.
But she came back to the church, so she came back.
She was high.
I don't know how she thought she was going to get away with it.
Oh, Lord.
This is another similar story. This is Chris Davis this time. We had a team come a few nights. Then he missed about a month or so of youth group. And we did a visitation to his house. And his mom told me, she went on and on about how much he enjoys going to our youth group and our church. And how he'd been going on extra days.
Right. Oh, extra days.
Dot. Yeah, Mom, I'm going to church. They got a special service today.
I'm going to church. I got one for you.
Go for it.
One night, we all went like pranking around town. And there was this house on the south side that we put forks in just standing up. So we forked their yard, right? Now, out of nowhere, they wake up and we just jet. And we believe to this day that they still had guns, like guns on them. And then I proceeded to get saran wrapped.
So get this. Pastor Cody sent me that story, and he didn't tell me who he was with. He like posted it in a forum, and I found it. I'm like, how did you not tell me about this? Okay, he said, I did an overnight with my small group one night. we decided to, quote, fork the yard of one of our friends at the church.
Crazy.
We had about 1,000 forks into his front yard.
Crazy.
When we looked into the front glass door to see him rubbing his eyes in his boxers. We booked it, and all we hear is, yo, Paul, mount up. Paul is his brother who lives across the street. And as we continue to run, now he and his brother are chasing us. We got down in an embankment, and they ended up finding us. And they started yelling at us to come out. They didn't know who it was, apparently.
They had guns drawn.
He said, so we come out to find him in his boxers.
I don't think I was at this one.
Okay. Maybe he's gotten caught a couple times. He said, we came out to find him in his boxers, and then his brother with his 40 cal handgun just chilling there like, what are you going to do? I'm pretty sure that's illegal.
I wasn't there at that one. That was not me. That was not me, bro. I'd have peed my pants. Man. I'm telling you, I was not the one for it. I'd have been terrified.
But why do you mount up when someone forks your yard? That's what I want to know.
I think they just wanted to like make a point not to do it again.
Point made.
Right.
Point definitely made.
Right.
That's hilarious.
That's
Pastor Cody,
crazy.
that's a good one. Rebecca says, one time I had to extract a paperclip stuck between a student's teeth. That actually sounds like, that makes me cringe to think about. Can you imagine if it's actually really, really stuck and you just like start weaving it out of the teeth? Oh,
Come on, bro.
Kids are weird, man.
Come on, bro.
Adrian Zamora wrote, one time I caught 2 students having sex in the stairwell at our church.
Oh.
I have, thank God, never ever had that happen.
You've never had that?
No. But I feel like if that were to happen, it would happen at our church.
I've had some friends that have done that. Yeah.
I know wild things happen at youth group.
Wild.
But to bust down the door and be like,
Wild.
Absolutely wild. This is funny. He said, we were doing a Fruit of the Spirit and decided to play real life Fruit Ninja as a demonstration.
No.
We decided I was the most responsible one there at youth group. Should have been a red flag, but whatever. Our speaker even brought super sharp swords that his brother had. Everything was going great until I stabbed myself in the leg. He said, I ran into the church, which caused the wound to bleed more. After putting pressure on it, the guy who came to help was like, he pulled away the paper towel to look, and blood squirted on the guy, right? And then we asked one of the moms who was there if I should go to the hospital or not.
Yes.
And she said no. It turns out she passes out at the sight of blood, and she tells me that later. And also she added on that I should have definitely gone to the hospital.
Yeah, you should have done, bro.
Like he
didn't go to the hospital still? Like he didn't.
I don't know what ended up happening.
They would have given you stitches, bro. If it's squirting, that's not good.
He probably could have died.
Yeah.
Cody Green. It was our last night serving in Baltimore on a missions trip. I asked the pastor of the church that was hosting us where a good place to take the youth for late night dinner would be, and he said the Golden West Cafe.
The Golden West Cafe.
He said it was a cool atmosphere, great food, and they were open late. Plus, it's a block away. So we went, about 15 of us. There were kids 7th to 9th grade. And when we walk in, the hostess is dressed in a Halloween costume of some sort. And mind you, it's the middle of June at the time, so that was really strange. And a lot of other people were dressed up too. She gives us an oddly concerned look and says, just so you know, we're having a movie night tonight. In about an hour and a half, showing a movie that's like a horror comedy spoof sort of thing.
Oh, Lord.
Not sure if your kids would want to see it.
They didn't stay for the movie, did they?
Not sure your kids would want to see it. You should be done eating before we start. So everything within walking distance was closed at this point. So he's like, yeah, we're staying and we're really hungry. The menu looked great. So I told him, you know what, we'll just go for it. It turned out it was really good food, great service during dinner. And they even brought us dessert on the house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
That's fire.
The main host, who was dressed up like Teen Wolf from the scene where he went to the dance, comes to me and says, hey, we're getting ready to start the movie.
How did they know that?
I don't know.
How did they know that?
I don't know.
Guard your heart.
He said, hey, we're gonna start the movie in a few minutes, just so you know. I asked the hostess to get us a check so we could get out of there, but she kept delaying. And then the Teen Wolf dude, he kept delaying the movie because we were still there.
Witchcraft.
He comes back 15 minutes later and embarrassingly says, hey man, we're gonna have to start it if that's okay. At this point, everyone is acting super awkward toward our direction in the whole restaurant. And then I guess he says they knew that they were like a Christian mission team, which added to their awkwardness, as they wouldn't tell me what it was, other than it was like a spoof comedy spinoff of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We couldn't see the screen from where we were seated, so I told him, hey man, we're leaving soon. I'm just waiting for her to get the check. Don't let us hold you up. No big deal. You all just go for it. Watch your movie. The waitress is still nowhere to be found. Teen Wolf dude gets up 5 minutes later and says they're going to start. So the movie came on. None of us were paying attention. All I heard was the familiar monologue from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, except it was different, and I noticed people laughing. I tuned my ears close enough to hear the ending of the opening as it said, and that story is called The Texas Dildo Massacre.
Oh my gosh, no.
I immediately jumped up from my seat yelling, check, check please, while I scramble to pick up the kids and start hurling them toward the door. Mind you, 7th to 9th graders. To this day, all the students and chaperones from that trip tell everybody that I took them to a drag queen bar and where they were showing a porno. Somehow, I was not fired.
Oh my goodness.
All I have to say is he was kind of warned.
And if, honestly, on me, if they weren't getting me the check, I'm leaving. This is your money. While you were talking, I literally remember one of the funniest things that's ever happened at Youth Group. So I was literally still in Youth Group. Ted Shuttlesworth Jr. is preaching, and this bat is just flying around inside of the basement part where the services happen. Everybody is like absolutely wild about this bat just flying around, and Ted Shuttlesworth is just like, I curse this bat in the name of Jesus, things like that. So out of nowhere, Pastor Cody gets this broom and he's swinging and like, it's just mad funny, right? Dust is going everywhere. He's not hitting anything. And then out of nowhere, he like locks eyes with the bat and he radars it around the whole thing and then swings and hits the bat. And it looked like it exploded because the dust as he hit this bat, it just like, the bat died. R.I.P. bat. Somebody also broke their back that weekend, which was...
I remember that. I don't know if I said it on this episode or last one. I worked at a youth camp. I remember your youth group being like the one that stuff always happened. And I didn't like know you guys because I was young, but I just remembered like wild things happened and I'd hear the stories. And correct me if I'm wrong, there was a girl on the dock of the pond and a kid came sprinting down the hill, ran onto the dock and then shoved her into the water, right? And didn't she like... hit the edge of the dock, or did his force break her back? Something like that, right?
Yes. And then
that was you guys.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. And then a few years later, we have these things called spring retreat, and this girl, she break her ankle or something like that? She broke her ankle or like her leg, which by the way, that's like very next day, like there was x-rays of like her leg being broken or whatever it was that broke. Then that next day, she got healed and was doing like backflips down the hill, which is amazing.
That's actually wild.
The power of God, wild that trip. The wild part is like every time there is always something. There's always something.
And it's not...
And I feel like that's church camp.
The church camp, you bring your youth group to, the retreats you go on, there's always something. I think it's also when they get out of like the comfort zone of the church, people just go nuts. And some youth pastors apparently.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So this happened when we were living at this camp. A church brought a youth group from the inner city. And of course, this camp is out in the boonies of Pennsylvania. The leader said, you have my permission to do whatever you want to scare the crap out of these kids on a night hike.
I remember this story. Hilarious.
On a night hike. So what we did is we went out into the woods way like in the middle of the day and just started carving like claw marks into trees. And we like mapped out like, okay, when is this bush gonna shake? Like, when are we gonna stumble across this in the woods? And of course, like it's dark, so it heightens everything. They'll believe anything when you're like scared. Anybody will. And it just makes it more fun when it's all inner city. You have permission to just do whatever you want.
Inner city means black.
Inner city youth group.
Inner city means black. That's what it means, because black people don't go in no woods. They don't go in no woods. You can tell them I said it. Tell them I said it.
So
anyway, keep going.
They went in the woods.
Right.
With us leading them.
Oh, Lord.
And we had friends stationed along the path.
Y'all can't do this.
Basically making, this is probably like midnight at this point. Like we were so hype about this, being able to do it. And
so rude.
I think we even put Bluetooth speakers out in the woods and just started scaring the living crap out of these people.
Y'all was ready.
Yeah, we were ready. Like we planned this out.
That's crazy.
We had claws on the tree and basically we were leading the hike and showing them like, oh wow, these are these are fresh. And we'd like put our hand up to the claw and be like,
fresh, they're warm.
yeah, these are fresh claw marks on the tree. And they're like, you hear them like start to like murmur in the background. By the end, we get to the bottom of our hill, and it's probably 300 yards from like the main lodge area. And mind you, bottom of a hill. Phenomenal. You have like on the other side of a small little stream, maybe like a little creek, right? And the last thing that we had for this youth group was my friend was in a tree. And they thought at this point that a bear was tracking them to kill them. Like that's pretty much what they thought was going on at this point. So my friend was in the bushes probably like 10 yards away and just starts shaking this tree. And everyone stops. And then my brother and I, who were leading the hike, just like say, run, run. So this group of probably like 50 kids and leaders start sprinting up the mountain. 300 yards, they sprint through water. There's like the stream they had to cross. And they're just like dragging kids with them up this hill. So we get to the end and we obviously like tell them, everyone's up there laughing, crying, a lot of things, right? And the leaders are just like, man, my first thought was I was just saving kids. I was just saving kids and saying, we gotta go. And legit, they were like grabbing these kids and like hustling them up the hill as they're sprinting for their lives, saying they're about to get eaten. And that's the story that I told. I think it was last episode. I was just like, wait, I remember like a youth group story. That's probably my best one.
Wow. This reminds me of when my friends, this was right before I went on a church camp, or went to church camp down in Cleveland, Ohio, actually. So right before it, my friend lives on a hill in the backwoods, bro. I'm out till probably like 2 o'clock in the morning, knowing that I have to get up at 7 to be at this church camp. We got to drive a 5-hour trip. I need to get up and just be ready for it. As an inner city black man that I am, I had no experience with what happens if you experience any type of animals in the wood. It was like a cat or a skunk or something. And me and my friends are walking down this trail because, like I said, he lives up in the hills. And I just see this thing run in front of me and then stop and look at me.
Was it a skunk?
It was a skunk. That's what my friends say. But out of nowhere, I've never stared something down so long in my life, or what felt like 25 minutes. Could have been like a second. But we locked eyes and he starts running at me, right? So I turn around and I'm just hauling. Like I'm hauling. And then this bump happens. And all you hear is like this crack sound in my ankle. Oh. And I don't stop running because I'm like, no. I'm not looking back.
I'm not dying tonight.
I'm not looking back. You don't look back when you see something happening. If you see somebody running, like this is what we say in the hood. If you see somebody running, don't look back, just run. Because obviously they're running from danger. So as I'm running, I feel my ankle like there was like a crack or something happened in my ankle, and I still just run, right? So I get home and my mom's just like, why'd your ankle look like that? And I tell her the whole story. We get to the hospital. Mind you, this is like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning because I have to leave. We get to the hospital and I broke my ankle, bro.
Oh, and you ran on it.
Cracked. Like the roof of my ankle. Like the, I don't know what it's called because I'm not a doctor. But like the front of your ankle, I cracked it. It was like a tendon broke and like a piece of the bone broke off. I get to church camp and I'm trying to do all these different activities because I'm an energetic, dude. And I wanted to play basketball and stuff. And I wasn't able to do that. But that night, the same day that I broke my ankle, that night got healed.
Wow. That's
wild.
Actually sick.
It was crazy.
That reminds me. That was the story. That's like the one you just told, the leg.
Right. That was the first time that I had ever experienced like supernatural healing in my life. It was super
That's
dope.
awesome.
Yeah. So long story short, don't run because you could break your ankle. But in the event that you break your ankle, when you pray for it, it can get healed.
Amen. There you go. Speaking of running, Tara Phillips says, I tried to outrun a teen in a wild game of tag. I threw the chair in her path to slow her down, but in the process, I tripped over another chair and broke my arm. I was 23, a full-on adult, throwing a chair at a kid while playing tag. Explaining that to the doctor was quality.
How about their parents? Yeah, I threw a chair at your kid.
Maybe they just didn't tell the parents because the kid apparently didn't get hurt.
Oh, okay, cool.
The youth pastor tripped over the chair and broke her arm while trying to like trip another kid. Throwing a chair at the kid is like the first thing you think of.
That's what you get for throwing a chair at a child.
Carrie Malbeck says, in January several years ago, we went to Washington, D.C.
Very specific.
We went to D.C. on a Sunday after a conference to visit the monuments. It was super crowded and we couldn't find parking we couldn't find a parking spot for the van. A meter reader said we could pay at Arlington and take the subway into the city, and Arlington closes at 7.
Right.
So we did that, but they closed at 6 on Sundays in the winter. And classic, there is no signage about that.
Right.
We get back around 6:15, plenty of time to spare, in the sleet and freezing rain, and the gates are locked tight and no one is in sight.
Jeez.
This is with all of the kids too. This is like the whole youth group went with her. We tried every number we could find, and finally, after an hour of having teenagers slowly get covered in ice, we called 911, and they got a military officer in full uniform to come get the van out. This still gets talked about all the time, that it almost froze the teens to death, and the military had to come back and rescue them.
That's phenomenal. Kudos to our military.
Yes,
Thank you for
absolutely.
your service. We appreciate you.
Nick says, I took a group of high school students to the MOVE conference, my first year of youth ministry. One day again, this is Youth Pastor Fails. One day we went to the beach to enjoy some fun in the sun. All of our students were jumping off the pier into the water, and all was going well until the kid that had a broken back and couldn't swim jumped in. I don't know if he jumped in or if someone pushed him in, but it sounds like it was voluntary, and he jumped off the pier into the water and just didn't think that he had a broken back and couldn't swim.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, that's going to wrap up this episode of Youth Group Chronicles.
This was a great episode, actually.
That was a really good episode. This
fun.
brought a lot of memories to mind when it came to things that I've been able to do, and you too, so that's super cool. But Isaiah, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it. Youth Group Chronicles, if you have stories, we want to hear them. We want to hear them, and we might just feature them on this show.
That's so fun.
Awesome,
this is so
man.
fun. Hey guys, thanks for watching this latest episode of Youth Group Chronicles. If you got stories, go ahead and send them in. You can send them in to ygchronicles@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you like what you saw, go ahead and like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that you can be notified for our future episodes. Last but not least, somewhere around here, there's an episode that YouTube thinks that you'll like. Why don't you just watch it? You'll laugh, you'll love it. You can share it with other people. Hey, love you. Love you. Bye.